All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Over the Years. It's your boy Tim. If you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. We are in Hancock, Maryland, which is about an hour and 40 minutes from our house in DC. And we have had a antique flea market booth here at this antique mall, Hancock Antique and Flea Market Mall, for a little while now. We got it because we wanted a place. We got rid of our storage unit, our first storage unit, a while ago. And we wanted a place to kind of store some of the larger items. And our buddy Cernock from Cernock's Connection, Reseller Information Network, if you guys aren't subscribed to that, make sure you guys subscribe. He had a booth up here and he was like, dude, there's a booth open up next to mine. And it was, at the time, it was only $180, which is cheap compared to like what it costs like anywhere else in my area. So I was like, okay, well, it's cheaper than a storage unit. It's cheap for an antique booth. Let's give it a shot. Over time, it was like doing really well in the beginning. And then like my own fault, I kind of just was like, you know, I wasn't keeping up with it as much as I should. And, you know, we'll talk about that stuff as you guys watch us pack it up. And we'll kind of go over some things like we did wrong and then reasons probably why I didn't succeed as much. But point being, we are moving on from this venture. We're trying to cut costs so we can build the shed, trying to make more money and not spend more money. And it's so far from me. It's just too much for me to keep up with. And it just makes sense to kind of pull the plug and move on. Now, I don't know what's left in here. Ma Dukes and I came up here a while back, a couple months ago, and like restocked the antique booth and stuff like that. So we'll see what's left, and then we'll make some decisions on what we're going to do with that stuff. If we're going to list some of it I know I'll probably list. Some of it we'll probably be doing a live sale. Make sure you guys are members of the one-stop shop. We're going to be doing a lot of live sales over there now, so make sure you guys are members of that. Is a link in the description below for you for that. Some of it will donate, and yeah, that's kind of where we're going to go from here. So let's go ahead and go inside and get things situated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can see it is actually a pretty nice day as we begin our stroll to ending a chapter and starting a new chapter as we begin to empty out our antique booth. Obviously, you can see that you know, this mall is a antique mall and flea market mall, so there is a kind of a mixture of style of booths and style of items that you'll see for sale here. I will tell you though that I was pretty upset, and you'll notice at points throughout the beginning of this video when we do get to our booth, you see that we'll pass Cernock's booth, and whose booth was right next to mine. Big shout out to Cernock. I was kind of upset, to be perfectly honest with you all, because what happened is that I had called when I had gave my notice that I was going to be moving out the booth. I had asked them to place, because normally this is the way that you do this, is you ask them to place your booth on sale. So I told them to put a sign up for 50% off on my booth. So I was going into this thing thinking that there wasn't going to be a lot of stuff left, and it was going to be a lot easier to unpack the booth. As you guys can see, there is still a significant amount of stuff in here, and you'll also notice that there's like a blank space on the left side of my booth. That was a giant vintage Coke display, like a metal Coke display. It had like a plastic Coke sign on the top of the display, and I was really thinking I was gonna have to like disassemble that and load it into my car, but that did sell for how much I'm not even sure. I won't know until the 5th of January my actual last total that I made there. And we're just gonna kind of give you guys a brief little overview of some of the items that we are that are still left here in the booth. You can see there's some Coke crates, some framed Jello advertisements, some ball jars, some other glass bottles, some figurines, some cast iron stuff. There's some things that
You see that giant toolbox. It's going to be an interesting sort of situation of what we decide to keep and what we decide to donate, and what we not say keep but decide to list on eBay versus what we decide to list on Facebook Marketplace. Like that big toolbox, that's gonna have to go on Facebook Marketplace. It's just too much for me to ship that, but that's like a $200 toolbox. Shout out to my guy Leroy, Blood, Sweat, and Cells. He is the OG when it comes to the tool game. As far as reselling goes, make sure you guys are checking us out on the Reseller Information Network. Myself, Cernock, Eric OBX Picker, and Leroy Blood, Sweat, and Cells. So we kind of are now just kind of the other thing that's crazy is people always, if you guys notice, I'm picking a few things up and bringing it to the booth next to me, which was Cernock's booth, but that booth is now turned into like the 75% off mall booth. But one of the biggest problems I had here, every time I came to my booth, I always found stuff that didn't belong in my booth. Like people, I don't know what it is with people when they're shopping at antique malls or these flea market malls where they have like a whole pile of things and then they're just decide to leave it in a completely different booth. It drives me up the wall. So first thing I did is kind of gather all that stuff up. And we start to begin the decision process. A lot of staring in my mind. I'm trying to kind of figure out like what exactly we're going to be keeping here, and that's kind of like the big thing here is like deciding what's actually worth like bringing back and listing. Because a lot of the stuff that we put into this booth wasn't necessarily like high end stuff. It was stuff that was left over for some bulk buys. Just a lot of random stuff that I thought would do well in the booth. And a lot of that is kind of the stuff that Mike came back with Ma Dukes in September and loaded the booth up with, because we were kind of just getting rid of a bunch of stuff, leftover stuff from my storage unit moved into my house here in DC, and stuff that like my mom had at her house that, you know, didn't necessarily sell in yard sales. But we tried to keep the theme pretty uniform in the booth, and at times the booth did really well. It's tough because in this particular antique mall and flea market mall, because I mentioned there's like this combination of different type of booths, it just, I don't know, it never really took off. It wasn't like there were some really good months, don't get me wrong, but there were some times where it just never really took off, and I think that kind of like really set me back, didn't give me the motivation that I needed and to really succeed in this booth. But it became too much of a hassle to get out here. It's, like I said, it's like an hour and 40 minutes from my house in DC, so this became a lot. But we're starting to pack things up here, as you guys see, and we're kind of trying to figure out where we're gonna go here. So I think some of the things that I decided to keep was like some of the cast iron. I had these like cast iron trains. I had some cast iron claw feet, like for tubs from back in the day. A lot of people love those for like door stops, vintage decor. There's like a seltzer bottle I decided to keep. The framed Jello advertisements, I decided to keep those. These, when I say keep, these are things that I'm gonna list online. And then the couple of big things that I kept that I still need to photograph are those traveling makeup suitcases. Those are really nice condition, so I need to photograph those and get those listed. The two Coke crates, like when I first moved in here, like I remember when I first got in and I was selling at the flea market in Georgetown, I was crushing it with the soda crate game. But like everything else, it became super popular. They became harder to find. People were like always charging like $20, and like that's pretty much what I would sell them for, would be between like $20 and $30, depending on the condition, which soda brand they were. But I have those two Coke crates left over that will be photographed and listed. The things that will be sold on Facebook Marketplace will probably be the gumball machine. Big shout out to Miss Taylor. She hooked me up with that. I'm shocked that didn't sell. The other thing that will probably list on Facebook Marketplace will be the toolbox. That's another thing. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. We do end up donating probably... we probably end up donating about 75% of this stuff. It's just I'm in this process right now where I'm trying to really focus in on what I'm sourcing and what I'm selling, and working smarter and not harder. It's really, I'm getting be really organized in 2024. Like, I've been working hard already, and we're one day into 2024. I am a man on the mission. Now, a lot of people, I did want to take this opportunity to kind of talk about what it's like, as far as an antique booth. Now, everybody's situation is going to be different. I think that that's the main thing you have to focus in on. You need to really look and study the traffic that's coming in and out of where you decide to get an antique booth. Now, is it going to be like an antique mall booth? Is it going to be like country store stuff? Like, what is everybody else selling in that mall? I think that that was one of the more difficult things here, was that it was such a divide between antique and vintage versus, like, people selling flea market stuff, basically. So it was a really tough line to ride there. And then for me, obviously, it was just, I couldn't put things in the booth that I had listed online because it was so far away. And I think that that was another big issue too. So the motivation wasn't necessarily always there. But I think the first month that you're in an antique booth, right, is the most important month. We'll say 2 months, okay? That's going to be the most important time that you have in the booth, because that's going to determine, I think, to a certain degree, what is selling in your booth. Then like, okay, so after that first month or two, you look at your inventory, you look at what's sold, and what didn't sell. Okay, so then now when you restock your booth, you kind of have an idea of what you're putting in that booth. I think that's super important.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate you. You're a lifesaver.
Just in time, huh?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
If you want to be successful, you really have to, watch your, how much it costs you for your booth and how much you're making, and then calculate that into your time that you're spending on the booth. Is it all worth it? Now, I know a lot of people like to use antique booths as like storage, like I did when I first got this, and it's definitely helpful. But you just have to make sure, like, the time and the money that you're spending on your antique booth is worth it. I know, like, there's been times where I wanted to be in other antique booths early on in my reselling journey, but for me, I've kind of moved off of that long tail, sort of ideal to, like, moving stuff as fast as possible. I think that that's kind of like where I've been. And so, hopefully this sort of information and my experience in an antique booth will help others in their decision making. And like I said, everybody's situation is going to be different. I think that's most important thing to keep in mind. But just do your homework, do your research like anything else, and you'll kind of get an idea of what's moving, what's not moving. It's great for like large items too. I think if you're a reseller and you're picking up large items, I think the antique booths are a great place for that. If you guys aren't familiar with Bearded Thrift Machine and his other channel, Flip Squad, I recently heard them talk about a method that they were using for their booth, where they were basically putting things up on Facebook Marketplace and directing people who are interested in those items to go buy it at their booth. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I wish I would have thought of that. Big shout out to Julian and his wife. Fantastic people. Great channel. Make sure you guys show them some love. But yeah, we're all packed up now, and we're getting ready to roll on out, ladies and gentlemen. We are rolling on out. We are headed to pack up the car. I will tell you guys this. This took me all day. My back is still hurting. It was brutal. And I will also say that there was a lot more stuff in my booth than I had thought there was going to be, because the booth never put my items on 50% off like they said that they were going to, which I'm not going to lie, left a pretty sour taste in my mouth. But, we're going to move on, and we brought home one bag. We donated about 6 bags of stuff, and I took about 6 or 7 items to Ma Duke's house to sell on Facebook Marketplace. So you know, it was an experience. And listen, you miss every shot you don't take. So at the time, it made sense for me. My lovely wife Josie will tell you that she told me that it was a bad idea, that it was too far away, and I should have listened to her. But you know, sometimes you know, men in particular, we have to learn the hard way, and we're stubborn at times. So I thought it was going to be something that I could succeed in, and it's not that I didn't necessarily succeed in it. It's just that I couldn't put forth the full 100% effort that was needed in order to be successful with this antique booth. So it was a good ride while it lasted, and I learned a lot. And hopefully, what I've learned is going to be passed on to others who may think about opening up their own booth. And like I said, there's so many variables that go into it. It depends on how much you're paying, how close. This is what I'll tell you is the most important thing, in my opinion, and it doesn't matter what your situation is. Okay, is how close you are to your booth, because that's one of the most important things, is because if the closer you are, I feel like the more successful you're going to be with a booth. So the distance you are from your booth, the cost of the booth, the foot traffic, like, you know, monitoring, getting an idea of what that foot traffic is, being very, very in touch with what you're selling, how fast it's selling, and then calculating that time and money equation. Whatever the equation is for you that you think it works, that's successful, that's the most important thing. And that's going to be something that we're going to be talking about a lot on this channel in 2024. Is the time and money equation as far as reselling business goes. That's going to be super important for us, and we're really going to be working hard on that. We're going to be all about working smarter, not harder. That's one of the big things we're going to be working on. As obviously the organization standpoint, we're going to be we are honed in on like being like OCD organized now. So that's one of the big things we're going to be doing. We got a bunch of new announcements that we're going to be making too over the next couple of videos. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys tune in for the next video, because while we were here unloading everything and packing up and moving out, we definitely did a little bit of shopping, or tried to do some shopping. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that video, which will be coming out next after this video. And then make sure, like I said in the beginning of this video, please, please, please click the link in the description below to One Stop Shop. It is a community and marketplace that is ran by myself, Eric, OBX Picker, Cernock from Cernock's Connection, and Leroy from Blood, Sweat, and Sales, also known as the Reseller Information Network. It is a buying, selling community marketplace with live auctions, buy it nows, regular auctions. There's an entire place to chat. If you need help IDing things, you can buy wholesale on there. It's a very, very cool experience. So we're super excited about that. So do me a favor, please make sure you guys go over there and subscribe to become a member of that. It's free, no charge to become a member. And if you guys want to sell, apply to sell. We're gonna be doing a lot of stuff over there, including a ton of live sales. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And we call it the one-stop shop because you can find anything there. You can find glass, you can find tools, you can find sports cards, you can find clothes, you can find antiques, you can find ephemera. It's so much fun. It's gonna be a lot of good stuff in 2024. But thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate all the love and all the support. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Also hit that thumbs up. But most importantly, YouTube, stay classy. Peace.